Hi, I'm Betsy Paik. Welcome to the Navigate Chronicles. This is a place where every other week I come to share some insights from things that are happening inside the Navigate method. On opposite weeks, you can find me over on my podcast, The Art of Living Big. All right, so this week I wanted to talk about some of the feedback, I'm going to call it feedback, that I get online from men. And I think this factors into the Navigate method simply because of the type of work that we do. When we begin working with women, one of the first, and honestly, I think one of the hardest lessons that we teach is that everything that is happening in our experience is happening inside of us. And the way that I describe this is, if I was at your house in your kitchen and your husband said something with a certain tone, I may not even notice the tone and almost certainly would not be like what we'd call like triggered or activated from that. The activation happens because of the history that you have and the experiences that you have, maybe pattern recognition that you know what that tone means and it might not mean the same thing to me. All that to say that what is happening is inside of you. So it's not necessarily what's happening, it's what's happening to you when you experience something. But what that does actually is gives us a lot of power, because then we have an opportunity to really heal the thing that's happening inside of us. And once that is healed, once we are no longer activated, then we can make a decision about the relationship from a place of wisdom. We're no longer making it from an activated place or from a place of being so angry or feeling that like fight or flight. Instead, we're making that decision from a place of this no longer meets my standards and this isn't up to my value system and how I want to live. And so if at that point you do decide to part ways, there is easier for you to co-parent. It's easier for you to work through the details of the separation. There's not as much emotional angst about it. Now, we're all human and we can't erase every kind of emotion, nor would we want to. But my point is that when we can get a hold of what's actually happening inside of us, it begins to create a really huge shift in how we experience the world. And it's ultra important, not only for our relationship, but for any future relationships, but also friendships, co-workers, like all of these things. And it's because we're improving the relationship with ourselves. Okay, so back to this message that I got, one particular message, but this is a kind of a theme or the type of message that I get quite often. So a man named Tom said, "What about the husbands that are left with this devastation? It seems so many people walk away because it's easier. It's quite the fashion these days. Thanks, Betsy Paik. Let's have some advice for the leftover husbands. I have just lost my best friend," he uses quotes, "of 20 years through walk-away wife syndrome." My response to him are, there are loads of men's coaches out there. I help women do the work on themselves so they aren't just leaving without healing first to see if anything can change. I suggest you do the same. Healing is available to everyone. I think there is this, I'm going to say it like this, in this patriarchal society, there is a skew to always put whatever happens, whatever the result is, if it is unsatisfactory or unhappy or unwelcome, on the woman. And I mean, I think we can look at this, and I don't want to go down a big, huge rabbit hole, but I think we can look at this in a lot of different ways, right? The woman is raped. The man isn't the one raping. We don't say it like that. We don't say a man raped someone. We say a woman was raped. It's always framed for the woman and what that experience is because she did something or how she experienced it. And I think that it shifts, I'm going to say blame, it shifts importance, it shifts responsibility away from the man. I see this sometime online when people are talking about affairs and affair partners. And, a lot of people that come to us have experienced that. Many times it's a coping mechanism to deal with something really, really unhappy. And typically, how we see it framed is on the mistress. There is this shift of, I'm going to say, blame. And this is what I'm seeing here. And these are the comments that I'm starting to see come up. What about husbands left with this devastation? I got to tell you, I work and have talked to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women, maybe thousands. I've heard from thousands. And none of them, not one, has gotten to the place where they can no longer move forward in the marriage without asking and pleading and trying a million different things. Tom has some pain here, but what I don't see is him taking any responsibility for his part in it. He's handing it all over and saying, women are doing this thing. And again, going back to placing this blame or releasing accountability for men. I've never worked with a woman who did not try a million times. In fact, I think women stay long past the time where they are emotionally involved in the relationship anymore because they want so desperately for things to change. They want to feel something different. They want things to work out. They want to have a partner. They don't want their families to fall apart. And so the work that we do with women is really them getting to a place of clarity by simply weeding out what they have been wanting for so long, and instead healing what's being activated in them, understanding what their standards are, understanding what their values are, and then making a decision from a place of wisdom because they are seeing things and what I call calibrating by action. So instead of calibrating on potential, which I think so many women do, he has the potential to change. He has the potential to be a great husband. He has the potential. Instead, they start to begin to shift to calibrating to what's actually happening. And when that happens, the clouds part, there begins to be a clarity and an understanding and even a settledness inside of them so that they know what the next right step is. And you can't take the next right step until you know what it is. And so many times people will say like, oh my God, I couldn't leave. I don't have the money, or I don't have the, whatever that is. You can't figure that out until you get to the place where you have certainty. Once you have certainty, then all things can be figured out. And you can figure out a way to move forward. And you can figure out a way to let go of your home or let go of your animals or whatever it is that you think you're going to lose in this separation. Now, on the flip side, many times women will do this work and then they realize that there is a lot of good and they're not ready to give up. And they have some new skills and new ways to be able to move forward. And I think that that is a really valid thing too. So when Tom here is saying, what about the husbands left with this devastation? I would say, Tom, what about the husbands that don't take accountability? What about the husbands that leave the women flailing for so many years while they struggle to try and make things work long past the time when they're emotionally capable? What about the women who have given up their lives and their being emotionally intact in order to move forward and to show up every day trying to make this work? So I think that when women come to us inside the Navigate Method, and that's one of the first lessons that we teach, it's really in order to empower, and it's in order to be able to create some feeling of movement, that things can change. You're not stuck because you get an opportunity to do that work inside yourself and to calibrate based on action. So that's something that's coming up inside my comments and also kind of reflects inside the work, inside the Navigate Method. So thanks for being here this week on the Navigate Chronicles. You can find me next week on the podcast, The Art of Living Big. And as always, if you'd like to join us or learn a little bit more about what we do, you can find us free masterclass right on my website, betsypaik.com. and I'll link it in the show notes below. All right, see you guys next time.